a thumbs up? Okay, well, can everybody hear?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is going to work. I guess, like I say, if it gets really wobbly, or just let us know, we'll turn it off. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. We know that this has been a busy week with the Remembrance Day celebrations and preparations and things like that, so we definitely appreciate you coming and spending time with us. We are the Kent branch of the Ontario Genealogical Society, for those who don't know who we are. I think probably everybody's been here once or twice, and I think they know who we are. Our meetings are recorded, so I just need to make you aware of that. And actually, they're on our YouTube channel, so anyone can go to our YouTube channel. I don't know if you've ever used YouTube before or not, but it's free. You just go on, you make yourself an account, and all our past meetings are there too. So if you miss something, or you miss a meeting, or Len's telling you some great things, and you're like, oh, what was that website again? You can actually go back and rewatch it. So the Ontario Genealogical Society has been preserving family history for over 50 years, and there's more than 50 branches and special interest groups all across Ontario. The people who often come out to the meetings, I tell this spiel every single time because there's usually one or two new people in the crowd, so just bear with me. But this is new for everybody. So the Society has a new website, and if you haven't had a chance, definitely go onto it and take a look at it. This is it, or this is the top part of it anyways. So they worked really hard on taking the suggestions from the members on things that weren't working or changes they wanted to see, and they tried to implement that. So definitely take a boo around. It's a little bit easier to use than it was before. If you have not gone on and logged in, they were asking that you do that just to make sure that all your credentials still work and everything. So take a look at that. So we are the Kent branch of the Ontario Genealogical Society, and our focus is Kent County. So we do research here, we do mentoring, we have newsletters, we have these monthly presentations, and we have a resource collection that's held at the Chatham-Kent Public Library on the 2nd floor, and it is a gem. We're one of the lucky branches to actually have this, and this is due to the dedication and all the work of the members that came way before me, and all the dedication that they did in gathering these things up. So this collection is available to the public. You're welcome to come in and do your research. The shelves are open, so you can just go in, and we have some scanning devices, we have some computers you can use. So it's definitely worth a visit if you have not ever been out there. We also have our own branch website, and we also have a Facebook group. So they're both open to the public, so if you haven't had a chance, definitely go on and take a look at that and see what we have to offer. So with the Ontario Genealogical Society, now is the time to renew for 2018. And last year they did a membership drive where an existing member could bring in a new person, and they both got 50% off. And that was such a big success that they did it again. So if you are interested, and I actually have the price wrong. It's not $32.50, it's $31.50. So you guys didn't catch that when I sent it to proof you. And I actually printed off, because quite often people say, well, what do I get for my money? Well, there's 2 pages of what you get for your money, and they're on the back table there. There's actually some substantial savings. So people who maybe use Find My Past, that's a searching, like the Ancestry is Find My Past, like you can get 50% off of that as an OGS member. That's like a $150 value. So, and there's a bunch of different things that are there. So if you're interested, or you want to know more about what you would get for your money, definitely pick up one of the sheets there, or talk to one of the existing members already. And that goes until December 31st. We are also looking for new folks all the time to come on to our council team to help out. We asked last month for someone to come and help with our membership, and we graciously had somebody step up and do that. So I thought, we'll try that again with our programs. And the programs is basically doing this. So it's only a couple hours a month, brainstorming ideas. So we're already looking for 2018 topics, ideas, speakers. What do you guys want to do? What do you want to see? What do you want us to investigate? It's contacting some of the speakers. It's talking to McKinley's here, saying make sure we have the room and we have the equipment all set up, and that's about it. It's pretty easy. So if you think you have a couple hours to spare and you'd like to hop on, and it's a team, it's not here's one-man game. It's definitely a team, so talk to one of us again if you're interested in doing that, because we graciously would appreciate some help. We often talk about upcoming events in the community. So the Kent Historical Society, their next meeting is November 21st. And as you can see, it's Ann Fisher. We had her come and talk, and the presentation was really, really good. So if you missed it here, you have a second opportunity to go to the Historical Society and hear her presentation. So just a reminder that this will be our last meeting, or our last presentation until next year. So we don't have any meetings in December or January or February, so you can snuggle down and stay warm. You don't have to go out in the cold weather. And we'll see you back here, as far as we know, back here in March 2018. March is usually our annual general meeting. And for those of you who don't know, the Society went through a governance review a couple years ago, and they contacted the branches and members to say what needs to change. And they listened to all of us, and they made changes. And they made significant changes to the branch bylaws, or what we needed to have as branch bylaws. So we typically have our annual general meeting. We are thinking we are not obligated to do that anymore. So we, as a council, we're going to brainstorm a little bit and see exactly what we're going to do, but we will be keeping you informed of any decisions, and obviously we have to put it to a vote if we're going to make any changes with our bylaws. So please read your monthly updates so you know what's going on. And we send them out through MailChimp. And I can go in and I can see who opens them and reads them. So be sure to do that, because it has a lot of information about what's going on. So you don't come up and say, hey, I didn't know you guys were doing that. And I'd be going, it was in your update. So if you have any questions about those kind of things, definitely email us or talk to us after. Okay, so you're almost ready?
Lock and load.
Yay. Okay, well, tonight's presentation, we have Len and Gabrielle Maynard. They are retired, both of them retired from military profession, and they have a passion for history and family history. They've been all over the world, and I believe that each place that they've been stationed or located, that the history of that community or that place has drawn them to become involved. So they're highly involved in the Legion as well. And we thought, what better fit than have them come and talk to us tonight about military records, what you can find, what they mean, where do you find them, how do you use them, how do you decipher them. So without further ado, I will introduce Len and Gabrielle. To switch you over. No problem.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. As she stated, my wife and I are both ex-service. I did 30, she did 17. That's my personal resume over here. So I started in the infantry, ended up as an Air Force firefighter, which unfortunately got me 3 years on ship, longest 3 years of my career. Green guy wearing a blue uniform on a Navy ship, and related to Goldie, so we all know how that went. Anyways, I'm going to cover military documents and medals. A little bit on the documents, probably more heavier on the medals. There's 3 languages you got to learn about the military: Navy, Army, and Air Force. The 3 talk different. No worries, you'll see it in the records. Some common terminology we want to go over that you're going to find when you get these records from the government. TOS, taken on strength. That means you've joined your unit. Okay? SOS, struck off strength. It means you're now taken off that unit. You might be getting posted to another one, or you're getting discharged. You're stricken off the roll call. TC, training center. You may see that throughout the records because they've been to different training centers. RCAMC, Royal Canadian Army Medical Corps, especially in the Second World War, you see a lot of that. RCAPC, Royal Canadian Army Pay Corps. And then CLK, clerk, like my wife was. RCASC, Royal Canadian Army Service Corps, you hear a lot of that in the service. They're not around anymore. RCATC, the Royal Canadian Artillery Training Center, you're one, I think we were talking to you, and he'd have probably gone through that. Another one you're going to find in documents a lot is IAW, in accordance with. It's a military term. Anybody that's ever gone on the hatless dance, which is when you're a bad boy and you got to go in front of the big man, they always say, in accordance with, you broke this law. Okay? RO, routine orders, you'll see references for that a lot. RTU, to return to unit. So if you're training and you're going back to your unit, you're injured, on course, you're being RTU. We used to say RTM, return to mama, but they didn't like that. BN or BATT equals N, short form for battalion. That's an infantry unit. It goes section, company, platoon, battalion, brigade, corps. When you're looking at the evolution of how the Army works, so you'll see those referenced in there. Regiment, 1, 2, 3, those are regiments. The Royal Canadian Regiment, the Essex and Kent Scottish is a regiment, and the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry is a regiment. You get that with infantry, you get it with armor, RCD, the Royal Canadian Dragoons, the HCH, the Royal Canadian Hussars. That goes way back to the old days. Then you get stuff like DRO, your daily routine orders. Every soldier, airman, sailor lived off of those. TD, you'll see that in there a lot in your records. It's temporary duty. So if you've been assigned to another unit temporarily, you're under a TD. AHU, Administrative Holding Unit. A lot of that in the Second World War records. You get a lot of that. Okay? And QMS, Quartermaster Stores. That's the guy that gives you your uniform, your ammo, your food, your rations, all that stuff. And then the big one, NCO, non-commissioned officer. We'll get into that when I show you the slides, but basically, that's your RSM down to the private. Anybody that didn't have bars or pips, you're a non-commissioned officer. And your NEW or NEW is your Northwest Europe Theater. Those are just some of the ones you're going to come. Now, over here, I have a couple of handouts that break all this down and a lot further. This is just touching the tip of the iceberg. Help yourself to the papers. It's all the breakdowns. This is what they issue you when you receive your records from the government. They actually send you a translation sheet. Now we're going to cover ranks, just to give you an idea, because you see that a lot in your records. Some guys go up and down the ranks, some guys... Okay, again, you got your Navy, your Army, and your Air Force. Here's the kick of the cat. My wife and I are modern veterans. You got World War I, World War II. The rank structure changed several times. And it has again, just recently in the last 4 years, they've gone back to the PIPs for the officers. We'll get into that in a sec. But this is your Navy rank. These are officers' rank, and these are officer ranks, and these are officer ranks. So the little guy, the equivalent of, and it goes up. Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel, General, Lieutenant General, Major General, Brigadier, Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel, Major. Thing is, I worked with the British, I worked with the Jamaicans, and when I was down in Jamaica, I was a warrant officer, so I had a crown. I had more guys saluting me because our rank structure was different than theirs. They kept thinking that I was a major because they used the British rank structure. And Air Force, basically it's a... It's killing me, man.
It's okay. Just yell.
Not a problem. We have the Air Chief Marshal, Air Marshal, and so on down, Group Squadron Commander, and then up in the Navy it's the Admiral, Rear Admiral, vice admiral, and then your commanders. Your 4 bars is your captain. He'd be the equivalent of he'd be in charge of about 4 ships or squadron of ships. Your commanders, the 3, they're the ones that are the skippers of the ship. Okay? And then you got your ranks. We're getting I think in the next one. There we go. These are the ranks that the wife and I are used to. These are what we call non-commissioned ranks. The other ones were your commission. You start at the ordinary seaman, your able seaman, leading seaman, master seaman. Now, master seaman, that used to be called, or leading seaman used to be called killick. You'll hear that, and that used to be an anchor. But in 1973, when they unified, they took a good working model and they trudalized it. It hasn't worked since. Anyways, and then you go up to sergeant, petty officer, petty officer 2nd class in the Navy, sergeant in the Army, sergeant in the Air Force, and then your petty officer 1st class, which is warrant officer in the other 2 services, chief petty officer, master warrant officer, in the Army also known as company sergeant major or CSM, and then master warrant officer in the Air Force. Chief petty officer, level, what do you call it? 1st class is your chief or coxswain if he's in charge of a ship. In the Army, we just call him God, and he lent the battalion or the regiment out to the CO, but that was the RSM or the chief warrant officer. And in the Air Force, same thing. Again, just a little breakdown on the air side. They've gone back to these now. They used to have the gold buttons. Now you'll see the cadets in the Air Force now. They've gone back to the white stripes and the white silver buttons. Now, some of the things you might get with more modern ranks is position. The old saying, position is higher than rank. These are command. This is Canadian Forces Chief Warrant Officer. The first guy was God. Oof. Then you got the Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, and then your command group formation. And it's basically the same thing for the other 3. It's just their symbols for it. Okay? These are positions. These are guys that are up in Ottawa, sailing, flying, or digging a desk most times. Okay? Any questions on the ranks? All right? It's kind of straightforward once you get into it. Just wanted to get you used to it, because in the records you'll see sometimes they go up and down. And on there is the breakdown of all the ranks also. Like L/CPL is Lance Corporal. That's back when we had the real ranks. Now we're going to get into some documents. Attestation papers. Everybody, I'm sure in here, I'm preaching to the choir here on those things. Just some of the things you're looking for. We always put the service number up here. And the more important things, yes, you got all your straightforward questions, any back service, how long and so forth he did. But you're looking for the writing, the minutes that they put on there. Because that's where they're going to take this, and they're going to say, you're going to that outfit, you're going to this outfit, you're going to that outfit. That's what you're looking for in these things. And any notes of back, like this is that individual over there, this is his. And this is where I found out that he belonged to the 6th Dragoon Guards of the Enniskillen. That's what he fought with in the Boer War.
You also have to remember, too, is even though you're researching military history, you can find out what the individual's mother's name was, possibly their address, possibly if they had a spouse, possibly if they had children also. So those little nuances you can also expand your own family history also.
Big time. There's more information on these documents than military stuff. I even found out where my grandfather came from. Yes, Jerry?
You can also find out, so that's World War I, isn't it?
That's World War I.
There are cues in the attestation papers where you can also determine race.
Yes. Yes, it says English, it says Scott, yeah, it's in there.
Also religion.
Marriage, if there is a wife, religion's in there. And like I was saying, I felt like I found out that I Googled his regiment, his first regiment. And that's when I found out there was a mounted rifle outfit in the Boer War. Carabiner is what they were called. And the carabinier, as the real term goes, it goes all the way back to 1700s. So I found that out about him, and right there, 6th Dragoon Guards, 12 years. I sent away for his war records, and I got his service disciplinary records, and that was only 4 years. I wouldn't want to see 12. They'd need a forklift. He may have broke a few rules. And again, there's what I'm talking about a minute. Now I believe this is yours. This is where you find out. 94th Overseas Battalion. That's who they assigned him to. Google 94th, and you'll find out all the action that outfit's seen. Okay? And again, you're going to find out where they came from, their background. There's so much stuff in here. Previous military, again, 6.5 years with the 96th Regiment. Google the 96th Regiment, and you'll probably find it was either a reserve unit or English. And again, the service number. Service numbers come small, come big, and we'll get into what happened in the 70s shortly. Every soldier, especially in the Second World War, yeah, even the sailors, had a pay book. This pay book is like their personal resume. They had everything in this thing. You had their name, their service number, where they're from, what their civilian occupation was, nationality, religion, where they're from. And again, name, service number, unit or ship. He was a Navy Reserve, my uncle. He was a patrolman, so he was with the shore patrol. And the story goes in the family, he's out there with his partner going along, they see this Army guy sitting on the curb, and they're going to roll him. They're going to have some fun. Turns out to be his brother, Norm. He ended up having to take him home, babysit him. According to my uncle, he was always doing that. So. And then you can find out, you know, kit and quarter, or there's information here about how much they spent on uniforms, what they were issued, that kind of stuff. Again, the unit ship, amount paid, deducted currencies throughout their career. Dates throughout their career are very important. You can find out when and where, what unit, what date they were attached to that unit. It's all in these little pay books. Most times you get a photocopy of something like this when you get your records. I was fortunate enough to have my Uncle Elf's naval pay book, and I was fortunate enough that my cousin had my Uncle Norm's. A lot of information I got out of that. Again, courses and qualifications. Dates throughout the career again. Weapons qualifications when they were on the range. What weapons they fired. It's all in this little book. Medical status. You know, I did 30 years and I can never figure out what they meant by all those bells and whistles on that thing. The little ticks and that, but basically one's hearing, one's your health and everything else, and your year of birth. That's the World War II version of the pay book. World War I service records, you need a magnifying glass.
Yes.
Man, oh man, some of the writing and through the age, it's interesting. This was my grandfather's war record that I was telling you about. This is where he got in a little trouble with the provost, but it was an interesting read. Educational. He was quite the character. I knew there's a reason I like that man. But again, you got your dates, from whom, what happened and where. So it'll tell you what part of the world, again the dates, and who was, any extra remarks from the high esh, especially if you happen to do a little extra time. You'll see here that he was reprimanded and denied Lance Corporal stripe. I don't think my grandfather ever wanted to get hired in private. Again, now you're getting into like the World War II records. Good information here. Now here, awarded the Canadian Service Medal and Clasp. We're going to get into those medals shortly, but this is another source you're going to find out some of that information.
This is a record of service?
Yes.
Is that separate from?
This is the World War II version of the other one.
When you send for the records, this is what we send you?
Yeah, they'll send you a copy of this.
If you're a blood relative.
If you're a blood relative,
For World War
or you
II.
can work it around another blood relative. Fortunately, my dad signed for all three. It was great. And then it goes through everything from the son, Norman, and my cousin when he was born. And did I ever ride his butt about his name, Norman? Because he always goes by Doug. Things you learn. It's great. And again, tested for gunner ops. Attended wireless gunner ops course. Again, you get all that military training, what their qualifications were, what their job was in the war. It's all in there. Acting Lance Corporal, or acting corporal. And then he was a Lance Corporal. Then back to trooper, because he was part of the auxiliary force. So when he went over, and this is something else, in the Second World War, a lot of troops, and the First, they were held in training battalions, and when they went over to active, their rank went up and down. Didn't necessarily mean they did something wrong, it's just they had a position for a corporal, the guy had the qualifications, here's your chevrons, and away you went. That's something you want to look for, and again, here's your stricken off strength, and to what unit. A lot of information in here. This is another form that they'll photocopy and send it to you. It's called the Service and Casualty Form. Again, you get the medical stuff. He was a machine operator, his first trade. Troops a lot, his rank trooper. Now trooper, he was armored. A trooper is the equivalent of a private in the infantry. Trooper was a cavalry rank. You guys used to ride the horses now into tanks. They're still called trooper. Bombardier is an artilleryman. So, just again, the languages even go change from the army branches. Award sheet. Now, this is where you find all the medals that they were issued. In this case, you had the 1939-45 star, the France-Germany star, the Defense Medal, the Volunteer Service and Clasp, and the War Medal of 1939-45. We'll get into these medals in the next part, but it'll break down exactly what I mean by clasp and all this. This is where you'll find that information. Again, you get the service number, the name, background on the man, and where he's from. And he was in the good force. His discharge paper. Back in the Second World War, they actually gave it on a parchment. And my cousin had this thing folded up and it survived years. Thank God for parchment. And then I got a photocopy of the same thing, so it was like from the government. But it tells you when he returned to civilian life on demobilization. Again, got a Canadian Volunteer Service Medal and Clasp. This gives you the description of the man, any scars or anything on him. A lot of information here. The service number again, rank trooper, 30th Reconnaissance Battalion. So I Googled that. That's now the Windsor Regiment. Same badge. It's amazing.
Excuse me.
Yes,
You
sir.
don't have to specify what country you wanted, they just send you all those things.
If you can find in your records or information that family member's service number
Yeah,
and name,
I only got one page, read all those pages.
I just sent them in through the Archives Canada on the request
They
I
used
put.
to only send the attestation papers, now you have to go back, like we had to do that, go back and get them, it took 8 months.
8 months, they
8
quote,
months.
and they also have a
They
box
quoted
now
6.
for a genealogy, collection. And you get that, they send you all this.
But you
And
do
they
have
send
to
it on
ask
speed.
specifically
You have to ask for it, and there's
the
certain things they ask you on
attestation,
the
service
form.
record, and
Go
Discharge.
family research, they give you all that.
And they send it on a DVD now.
And, oh, that's nice.
You specifically do have to ask for the attestation papers, the service records, and the discharge records. Okay? Those are the 3 main records that you're going to receive.
Now, if you're looking for World War I enlistments, you can go online, you can get all of
Show
those,
that in
and
a
it takes
second.
you everything.
Yeah, I'll show you that in a second, because that's where I got this. The site that Jerry's talking about is where I got this, and this is a description of when my grandfather got wounded in the First World War in the trenches. 4 of them got hit by artillery. 1 died in England, the other 3 stayed on. They were gonna send, what it doesn't tell you, they're gonna send them home, and he told them not likely. He did not want to leave the regiment, so he stayed on as a stretcher bearer. But that's from knowing the man. But this is from that site, and we looked up the paper it gave us on the World War vet, because I had his service number. It popped right up. It even said he was one of the original Patricias. Said the date and where he was wounded. We went further in and actually found the war diary for it. It's an awesome World War I site. The information there is just incredible. Yeah. There's the CanadianGreatWarProject.com. Now we're going to get into something, the modern veteran, and that's like, I call that after Korea on, because it gets a little funky trying to get records, because in unification, in the early 70s to the late 80s, your SIN number was your service number. And there's so many rules and regulations about SIN numbers, it gets real hard. But if you have a modern vet, son, cousin, somebody that served like from about the 60s, 70s on, they're going to get something called a UER, Unit Employment Record. Ton of information. The new military version of that little pay book that we carried around, we got it in 2 pieces of paper. It's called an MPRR, Military Personal Record or Resume. And on there, and this is mine, every place I was posted, every job I did, rank, family, courses, qualifications. There's the qualifications. Again, more posting history. Everything on there that you want to know about a modern serviceman is there. If you're lucky enough to be related to one, get his record. Also attached to that is his list of all his qualifications. It's a separate form. On top of that form is attached to that record. And in here, in this case, this is me. Infantryman pay level 3, that means I was the bottom of the barrel, starting off. Infantry machine gunner, that was my first course. Turret course Grizzly, I was one of the first Canadian courses on that 6-wheel menagerie you saw up there in the previous slide, to be up in that turret. Pay level 4, driver wheel and basic track, that happened in Germany. TQ 5A, that happened in Gagetown. And then it goes TQ3, this is when I started the firefighter. C environmental, or as we called it, the nautical nitwit course. Because we all tried to fail it and it wouldn't let you. And nobody wanted to go to ship. Firefighter safety. Oh, this is my firefighter inspectors, level 3. ILQ is the old senior leaders course. That meant I was now qualified up to a chief or to a warrant officer. More you get, these are different exercises and trainings I was on. I was a 2IC, 3IC, 2IC in Moose Jaw of a fire crew. Moose Jaw was a smaller base, so a master corporal was normally doing a sergeant's job, and a corporal was doing a sergeant was doing a warrant's job, master corporal was doing the sergeant's job. I ended up acting position. Again, goes back to that position is higher than rank thing. I think it's just because the sergeant wanted to pick on me more. And then where you're posted, promoted dates, posted, exercise, silver flag, that was down in Air Force Base Tyndall in Florida. I was a platoon chief in Winnipeg, promoted sergeant, posted North Bay as the fire chief of NORAD headquarters up in North Bay. From there I went to 8 Wing as a platoon chief, task force 1-08 for Afghanistan till taken out by a kidney stone. Exercise tropical hammer. So a lot of information. It tells you the years, what unit I belong to, TD'd or otherwise, and what my ranks were. Gives you that complete history. And my SIN number would have been there. This is your miscellaneous entries. This is everything from going through the gas hut, taking shot, going on the ranges, my EMR course when I was a firefighter, so my medical training, my warm and fuzzy sharp training, so I don't say the wrong thing to the wrong people. Didn't help, but you know, spill response course, different miscellaneous courses throughout my career. This is what you get on a modern vet UER.
So if you were, whether it was World War I or II or whatever, if you were a photographer or a mechanic, would you still have?
You would have documentation stating what your occupation was in the war or in the military.
So there'd still be something to
There should be something there that tells you what you were, just like in my uncle where it said he was a gunner and a wireless operator, same thing. It'll be on one of those forms. And this is your sheet they give you for every qualification you get. This is my infantry pay level 3, so that means I have now passed battle school. In battle school, you go boot camp. That's where they teach you how to march, how to press your uniform, how to shave your face. It's never good enough for the guy that's yelling at you and doing your boots. And then battle school is where they teach you how to be a soldier. In my wife's case, it was a trades course. After that, she went to Borden for her RMS course. Because she was there, so it was a different name, different training base, different setup. Course reports, if you're lucky enough for a modern vet, you'll always have a copy of these, because man, the military nowadays, you get wallpaper for all the forms they give you, and the certification forms. But there's a lot of information on there, what his qualification was, how well he did on the course, where it was, and any problems he had. And when you retire, this is something you're looking for a modern vet. Mine's in my wallet. They give you a retirement card, just stating this what your last rank was. CD, meaning I have that medal. And as they say, it's not an identification card, but it's certain things. If I go to a base, I can show it. If I go to a Legion, I can show it. Any questions on that? I know that's kind of fast and furious, but the records, there's a lot of information on it.
Did I tell you, I got my uncle's and it didn't tell me where he served overseas. Like he was in the Essex Scottish, and I know they were at Dieppe, but is that
Essex Scottish were at Dieppe. They were also.
Is that qualified information? Well, why wouldn't it be on his?
You got to look for the form. Now, if it had the term "new," that would be what theater he was in, Northwest Europe.
Okay.
These are the terminologies you got to look for.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes that's why researchers don't understand it.
Yeah.
Again, you got to talk Army, Navy, or Air Force.
Yeah. Okay.
But also they just generalized it because of the fact that at that time they were on maneuvers, so you could specify for reasons of security or classification, or for reasons also that they were moving just through the areas. So a lot of times they generalized it. They were in the French theater, or in Germany, or Italy. So they wouldn't actually say specifically they were in Rome, Italy, sort of thing.
You also have to be careful with World War I, is that when you left Canada on a ship to go to England, that was just a ship to England. If you went overseas, that meant you crossed the channel.
Yeah. There's a lot of little quirks like that when you're doing, but when you break down the writing, and those forms will help you identify some of it, and it tells you some of the theaters in there and the ranks, they will help you significantly.
One of the other things you should be careful about around the regiment that they left Canada in is not the regiment that they
Probably served in.
that they served in.
Going back to what I said about holding battalions, training battalions and the like, a lot of them went over as the 59, to give you an idea, is the 59 regiment or whatever. They were fetch and carry or whatever, and then they would resupply the units as they needed replacements. So, just because he started with this doesn't mean he ended up with that.
Also with Air Force,
Special.
you ended up with, let's say you were with 436 Squadron here in Canada, but you ended up with the British squadrons overseas. So it was a totally different squadron number.
So that's where you got to look for squadron number, RAF or RCAF, when you're dealing with Air Force records, because.
And the Navy's even better.
Oh yeah, they get.
Because everything is an HMS, HMCS, whether it's a ship or whether it's a depot.
Oh, but
Yeah.
if you have a C in it, then it's Canada. It's a Canadian ship.
Yeah.
HMZS,
It's New Zealand.
NZ, I should say, yeah.
So
It goes like
it's
that for
Her
any Commonwealth
Majesty's
Navy.
ships or Her Majesty's Canadian ships.
But it might not be a ship, it might just be.
It could be
depot.
like down in Windsor.
Hunter, HMCS.
HMCS Hunter. Try sailing that one.
There is a book at the front also when we break off that has the badges.
Right here.
Of the Air Forces, squadrons, the naval ships and
The
things like
bases.
this. So we can look through that also.
Now we're going to kind of get in to where it lists the metals and what they are and what's common. So you can see there's lots of charts, but these, you can get these right online, just Google it. You get a picture of this and come up. That's where I got that one from. Over here you got these ones that came out. Sometimes the legions have extra copies, sometimes they don't. And the government sometimes issues these out to different departments, so you may be able to get it through there. But this goes into everything, from the Victoria Cross on down to the lower long service medals. Even fire and police are in these ones. World War I medals, these are the three common ones that you're going to see on a World War I vet. Your campaign star, same today. You see a star like this as a campaign star. Afghanistan as a campaign star, and that's a modern medal. All your World War II ones have a campaign star. This is the British War Medal. You'll see my grandfather got issued that. And this is the Victory Medal at the end of the Great War. Those are your three common World War I. There are others. There's the Flying Cross, they came out with that for the Air Force and that. But these are the main ones that you're going to see. There wasn't a lot of medals in World War I, but they had them. The VCs and that.
Well, MMs they gave out with the rations, but.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do all the medals have the name and the rank on them?
No.
Only World War I.
No.
Modern medals, only the CD does on the side around here. There are certain medals, certain campaign stars, even in World War II. If you flip it on the back, sometimes it's engraved with the service number and the individual's name. Not always. It all depended what unit they belonged to and if they wanted to spoil the troops or not.
Well, and if you do have Canadian World War II medals, and I don't care how many relatives you have in your family, take the medals, have them put the service number of the individual on the back of them, and you always keep them together.
Is there significance to the colors that they use?
Yes.
Yeah.
The ribbons donate location. We'll get into that a little short, especially when you get into modern medals. Ribbons are very important. World War II medals. These are your standards. You got your, well, we'll break it down here. Canadian Volunteer Service Medal. If you just have the ribbon and there's no clasp, he stayed in Canada. If he went overseas, he got that. If he was in Dieppe, he got that. It was the only two clasps that were ever made for the Canadian Volunteer Service Medal. They have been trying for years to bring out a modern version of this, and the government keeps saying no because they have to back order for everybody that got out.
Sir, if you have, I have my father's medals,
Mm-hmm.
and I know he was at Dieppe because he was in the Scottish, but he doesn't have that. Does that mean
Means he should have.
he should have had it?
Either somewhere along the line lost it, or they're from Ottawa and they're here to help, and they trip on their
And
pen.
if you actually go to the MP's office, you can get one.
Yes.
If you can prove that he was there, they will get one for you.
Thank you.
This is the Canadian British War Medal. Everybody got this at the end of the war. The Defense Medal. Everybody more or less got that one. Campaign Stars. Oh, hockey sock 'em. Depends where you're at. This is the France and Germany star. A lot of the D-up, or not the D-Day vets would have had this one. The 1939-45 star. A lot of them had that. The Italy star. This would be your RCRs, your PBCLI. The D-Day Dodgers is the nickname in the book. They had this one because that was a separate campaign area. The African star. Again, depending. This goes back to someone's question of how you can find out where they were at. There's another way right there. If you can identify the medals, that'll tell you where he fought. The Atlantic Star and the Pacific Star. That's your World War II vintage medals. Yes, ma'am.
I have an uncle who was a flyer, and he was shot down over Burma.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're describing those World War II medals, should he have all of those just because he was there? And then the Burma?
You had to be there so long. There's certain criteria with each medal. I'm glad you asked that. Certain medals have, especially in the modern day ones, you had to be in so long in the theater of operation. So if you went there one day to drop off, they're not going to give you a campaign star because you happened to be standing on the beach in Normandy. You had to be there so long to earn the medal. Usually I think it's 3 to 6 months in theater.
Burma was not actually a specific campaign, and that's probably why it
Yeah.
didn't have a star.
I think there was a separate medal later on about that particular. It was I think it was the star, Burma star, but it
may
came
have been,
later. It didn't come at the time.
Correct.
Could have been the
Right.
Pacific one too.
And it probably had an elephant on it.
I don't know. I've never seen it.
That's her whole squadron.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Up in Trenton, they're still a regular force unit up in Trenton, flying Hercs.
Yeah.
She was their head clerk.
Oh.
Now we're gonna get into Korea. These ones are fairly easy. You see the Canadian Voluntary Service Medal for Korea. Some have it, some don't. Then you get into your United Nations Korea Medal. Those are the two common ones you're going to see on a Korean soldier. Modern medals is where it gets fun. There's your, again, the Afghan Star, Campaign Star. There was a big change in medals when it came to the modern era. You have UN, you have NATO, and then you have theater. medals. And then you got the long service one. That's this one here, the Canadian Decoration. That's why if you hear someone introduced, like myself, Len Maynard CD, that means I was awarded that medal. CD1, that's what that is, one class, that was 22 years. 2 years shy of my second one when I retired, that's 32. That would be your CD2, CD3, the guy should, like, wow, been in there a while. But they call this crimes non-detected when I was in. Because if you did something, you know, bad, they could hold that medal. You'd pay a penalty before you get it. I had a couple of buddies, they had behaved that. United Nations, the earliest concrete plan for the New World Organization to replace the ineffective League of Nations began under the compass of the U.S. State Department in 1939. On 12 June 1941, represents the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the Union of South Africa, and the exiled governments of Belgium, Czechoslovakia, Greece, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, and Yugoslavia, as well as General de Gaulle of France, met in London and signed the Declaration of St. James Palace. This was the first of 6 conferences that led up to the founding of the United Nations Charter of the United Nations. United Nations, you can always tell a UN medal because of that. They all have this, whether it's a shiny gold or it's a brass color, that's a UN symbol, and they're generally of this kind of decorative. So Korean ones, you can always tell Korea's got the blue and white, but it's a blue and white play. And then it'll tell you by the ribbon. That first slide I brought up will tell you addressing the ribbon tells you where he was at. Not necessarily this part. This tells you where he was at. Like I said, Headquarters Service Medal, Korea. They always have their short titles on these things, but these will tell you where he was always at. And again, the ribbons. This I got online. I just Googled United Nations medals. Brings up the charts and pictures of all the different medals. Now we get to NATO. United Nations is a separate entity to NATO. Everybody thinks they're the same. NATO is not. This is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Whole separate animals. That's why I got this. This is a NATO bar and not a UN bar. In 1949, the prospect of further communist expansion prompted the United States and 11 other Western nations to form the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. NATO continued its existence beyond the Cold War era and gained new member nations in Eastern Europe during the 1990s. The development was not well received by leaders of the Russian Federation and became a source of post-Cold War tension between East and West. The old commie red and the Allied blue, this is where it goes back to. You can tell a NATO medal usually has the NATO star within the medal itself. And here, they take it one step better than the UN. Notorious, I mean, you outdid yourself. Former Yugoslavia, they usually a bar on there, and this is a commemorative medal. And there's usually a bar that tells you where they were at. Haiti, former Yugoslavia. And then you got the color ribbon. It's always a blue and a white stripe version. But this shade of blue, always. And again, Kosovo, former Yugoslavia. This is the Middle East. Then you get into some more modern ones. They came up with peacekeepers because you used to get a UN medal and a NATO medal. So now Canada came up with its own to put beside it. So if you went on a tourist Cyprus, Golden Heights, you would be assigned a peacekeeper medal afterwards. I think it's what, 3 months for this? 6 months for your UN one, 3 months for this one in theater. Special service medal with a NATO bar. You get a NATO bar, you get an alert bar. You're one of the, as we nickname them in the military, the chosen frozen. You go up to the North Pole for a while and keep Santa company. You get a bar for that. If you do a NATO deployment with a NATO fleet for 6 months, they'll give you a NATO bar. I got mine because I was part of the NATO forces over in Germany at the time during the Cold War, keeping the East and West and keeping the Warsaw Pact at bay. Orders are a whole different animal. They usually are around their neck. You get the Order of Canada, the Order of Ontario. And in English, they got, the English military, they got more orders. The Order of the Bath, all this stuff like what Prince Philip is. But they're a really high degree to get. Okay? Other sources. Here's your library and archive site. This is where you can send away for your package to get your stuff. The Canadian Great War Project, incredible site. I learned more about my grandfather off this site than his stories. And this is another one. Canada at War. Some good information on this site. Yes, ma'am.
Back to the medals. If you've gotten a war record and it says whatever medal it is there anywhere that would tell if the back of the medal was imprinted with the person's?
Not necessarily, not on the documentation. Again, it all depends what medal they're giving you. I got 3, this is the only one they put my name on.
Now, if somebody came across medals, like I understand you can't sell or pawn medals, correct?
Well, people sell them all the time, and they pawn them all the time.
Yeah.
We just had someone come in the league and sold off a bunch of their family medals.
So if somebody found one with a name on, is there a place that people would send that to?
They could
If they were.
That would give you the information to research that particular vet and find out who. You can take that medal to Veterans Affairs and say, hey, we found this medal. Here's the guy's service number and name. I'd like to find the family so I can give this to. Under the Privacy Act, they can at least deliver it.
So if somebody just dropped it off to Veterans Affairs, would they search for that?
We get them in the
family or just
Legion
wait for-
all the time. People come in dropping medals off because they want it to go to the family. It's a crying shame when I walk through all these antique stores, coin shop stores, and you see a veteran's medal.
So you have medals at the Legion?
We had some that were come through.
Yeah.
I've had people come in and ask me to identify what they had. I had a lady come in, she brought in a rack of miniature medals. Medals come in 2 sizes. These are your full medals, and then you have miniatures for when you're in mess kit, like the fancy eating kit. You gotta eat with your pinkies up. But they have a little set of medals for that so you don't drip on them, I guess. But she brought this rack in, and I went through it and I looked at them and I was able to identify everything else. She even had the 2 green colonial auxiliary colonial medal and the auxiliary colonial long service medal. She had King George V coronation, and one of his Jubilee medals, and 3 World War I medals.
Wow.
Just want to sell them.
Well, at least the World War I medals, you could identify them off of those.
Oh yeah, it took me a while, but I identified every one of those.
But I mean, to the man, because he's.
Not the miniatures.
Oh, these are
Miniatures can't. Miniatures, they're like a canning spot, and they don't have any information.
Miniatures are always purchased by the individual, they're not actually issued. So a lot of times, the reason why they're worn on your mess kit, which is your formal attire for a mess dinner, formal dinner, you have to purchase your mess kit. And on average, they're running about $600 to $800, $1,000. And that means for a gentleman, it would be a tuxedo jacket, shirt, and cummerbund and long pants. For a lady, it's the short jacket and the long skirt. And that's why they don't issue the miniatures, is because your mess kit is purchased by you. Mostly, it's usually an officer and above, or nowadays it's actually sergeants and above will purchase their mess kits.
Heavily
That's why
advised.
you have to purchase your own miniatures so that you wear your medals on the mess kit. So
Yeah.
never ever is there a name on your miniatures.
When you become a senior NCO, they really heavily advise you to start getting up on your mess kit. And you have your specialized trade badges that go on there. Jump wings, EOD, crest, stuff like that.
But the large medals, unless their names are on the back, you wouldn't know whose they are.
No.
Correct.
You know what they are, but you wouldn't know who they were. All I got. Now, one thing I wanted to show tonight. This is my personal history. This is going to go to my sons and my grandsons, because it always stay in the family. That's all the badges and patches that I wore throughout my career. The SSF, that was London and Petawawa. 4 CMBG, that was Germany. That's in Kent. Ace Mobile, Canadian Forces, Germany. Then in the Patricias, I belonged to 1 Brigade. And then this is the NORAD badge and the old command badge for the green before we went back to our blues. And then one of the badges I had on my firefighting coveralls that I wore. This is my grandfather's. Now, these are original World War I medals, but I'm not a Howard, I'm a Maynard. So they're not his. But I found these in coin shops and I went hunting for the same ones. If you have any medals of a relative, World War I, World War II, modern, that you want to get court mounted, and I heavily advise you, get them court mounted. They will last forever and a day. Ontario Command in Aurora, in the back, these are World War II or I ribbons, or medals. They had rolls of the ribbon. Awesome source for getting the stuff you need for those medals. Those ones, when I had them mounted, I made sure they didn't put the pins in them, because I knew I was going to mount them, because I wanted them as a family heirloom. That's the Marguerite, this is called, that cap badge underneath the PPCLI thing. That was the original badge. It's not made no more. I don't have it with me, but we have a modern badge now. But with the picture that was him, I have that. I do this with all the family members I can. So I have their medals protected. That's all going to be handed down to my next generation. Hopefully they want to keep it and it doesn't end up in an antique store. Also, I brought with me, like my wife said, this is a book. Feel free to look at it. It's got all your base emblems, your squadrons, your ship crest. There's some books on uniforms, but in here it describes your ranks, especially for the Army, because yeah, I'm an Army kind of guy. And then we brought in an older one. These are memory honors and awards, but they've got a lot of your stars in here. And then these are your more modern medals that are given. Police, fire, and commissionaires, and everything else is in this one. So please help yourself, look at it, and enjoy it. But that's basically.
I just want to make a point also. I know it's overwhelming to understand the language of the military. I know that the military can actually totally say a sentence in just letters. And you're probably going to read it just in letters. So once you do, you can actually go online and find out acronyms of letters for military acronyms. That. And once you're tracing your relative, where he was or she was in the military, and where they moved, you might find out that they had a child in North Bay. So then, and they live there for a certain length of time. And then all of a sudden you find them appearing in Halifax, and there might be another child or on the nominal roll, because you're matching your nominal rolls and your military histories and things like this. So you can actually find out there's the active member and they've got the spouse. Then all of a sudden they're starting to have children. So you can actually track across the country or just in one region where they were through military records. So, and also who their parents were when they got married. So it all culminates together even through military records.
And even on that military record, I knew when my uncle was home on leave, because 9 months later, it was another cousin. But it was on the record. Our son didn't appear until my posting to Halifax, because that's where he was born. Before that, it was just my dependent spouse on the record.
Yeah, if you see a D/W.
Oh, she hates that.
Yeah, that's a dependent wife.
Yes, dear. But anybody see that movie, Good Morning Vietnam? There's that one scene where Robin Williams talks total military to that captain and just baffled him all blazes, all the short forms. You can have full conversations in militarism.
And you get used to doing it. I had an email.
Oh, yeah.
I had an email today from a friend of mine who asked me, "What the hell do those three numbers mean? 3 letters mean?" But you just get so used to doing it.
My wife keeps telling me, you got to stop talking military all the time. I've been out for 10 years. It's ingrained. You know.
So if you do have any questions, by all means, you know, hand the questions over to Goldie. She knows how to get a hold of us. Hand the questions over to Cindy. She knows how to get a hold of us.
Stop by the Legion.
Come into the Legion.
God
we
knows we
live
live
there
there
right now. But ultimately, we will always be willing to try and help and see what we can do also.
Since I've been moved back to Chatham in 2 years, I think I've identified maybe 5, 6 different families' medals for them. It's kind of a hobby I had, being in service and all. Something I always got into, so I was able to help a lot of families identify what they had.
We had my father's re-ribboned in
Mhm.
the store in London.
Yeah,
He knew exactly what it needed. I took in the originals and he put on brand new ribbon
Yep.
because the other ones were all.
Torn and tattered. You go to the RCR museum up there, they have a position in there, they have contacts that they can get them court mounted up there. They have a guy that works through there. And there's another place. The RCR kit shop has one thing that if you're not the original oldest son that got the medals or whatever, they sell replicas. Same size, same colors, but they're replicas. Nothing says you can't put that by the picture of your grandfather or your relative and say, this is what he earned. Yes, a little note, the replicas, but this is what he earned. They're out there.
What does that VP stand for?
Victorious Patricia.
Okay.
That was the regiment of my grandfather and my regiment. I won't tell you what we used to call it. There's a nickname we used. Next company.
I was missing the I in the middle there too, so.
No, I was never a VIP. Yes, ma'am.
Where would I look for a record of a Canadian, my father-in-law, who for whatever reason, I think it was flat feet or whatever, wasn't accepted into the Canadian, but they lent him to the U.S. forces and something to do with his mathematical skills. Where do I look for these records? Because
You
he
have a
wasn't
terrible
really in
time
the
with the
military.
You're going to have a hard time. You can try through the American records, but
They are
that's
terrible. Oh, just
they're a
little
nightmare
bit
to
worse
look
than
up.
the Brits.
And you can just keep trying through Veterans Affairs, see if there's anything that they can do to help find
There's
her,
also-
send you to a
There's
direction.
also, you can also try and find out if he belonged to an association, like an engineer association if he was, or something like this, because a lot of governments all across the world contracted civilians to work with their military. Okay, so you weren't actually a military person, but you were contracted to work with the military. So you may have to go in through that door if it's an association that the gentleman belonged to.
Or a special
or-
task force.
Yeah, so you may have to go, Google something like, subcontractors of the Canadian military, something like that, just to find out, because he's a civilian. And really and honestly, VAC or Veterans Affairs, they don't hold those records.
You have to go
Probably
through
the
Archive
Americans
Canada.
don't either, so that's why I'm suggesting you look under contractors.
Okay, because they'd have to pay him at that point.
Correct, but they were never a military
No,
person.
no, he
But
was not.
In,
Yeah,
in the
so
modern
they're a contract.
military, we contract out an awful lot of stuff on bases. They spent billions of dollars redoing Trenton, and they were all civilian contractors.
It's like my grandfather, he was a subcontractor for the Air Force, and he actually served over in Norway during Second World War.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, this was Second World War, and I remember a story, him telling us a story about having to fly to, it was either PEI, Newfoundland, somewhere, because there was going to be some big party and they had to go and get the general's wine or something. And it seems to me the story says all the bottles didn't make it to the party.
Let me put it to you like this. There's another military saying, rank has its privileges.
Yeah.
It's true.
Thank you.
Well, in that case, I'd like to thank you for having us tonight, and if you need any other information, generally, you can stop by the Legion. They'll know how to get hold of us. Okay?
On behalf of the branch, we'd like to thank both you and Gabrielle for your information and for sharing. And does anyone have any other questions that anybody in the room maybe could help with? So, like what they said, if you want to get a hold of them.
And those are the copies up there that are available.
Yes, these two stacks of papers here.
Yep.
Short form heaven.
So feel free to browse around, grab some snacks, and like I said, we won't see you back till March. So if you're new or this is your first time, please come back. We'd like to see you again. And visit us up at the library if you get a chance. Here in County. Wow. Thanks for coming.